The Geek Speak Show is produced and distributed by 22 Creations Multimedia, LLC.
This is the Geek Speak Show with Henry San Miguel. Interviews, reactions, and discussions about almost everything in geek culture, especially things you may not have heard about in your social media feeds. Like what? Keep listening. This episode is sure to introduce you to something new. Here's your host, Henry San Miguel.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Geek Speak Show. How you doing? How is your week going so far? Great? Good. For some of us, this past weekend we just went through, that was the last weekend of the year for us. Why? Well, because starting with this upcoming weekend, really tomorrow, Thursday, but starting with this upcoming weekend, yet another sign that it's my favorite time of the year. Football. Cold weather, hopefully, and Halloween, of course. Speaking of Halloween, now that we're a month away, well, a little over a month away, start thinking about and recording your experiences for the Halloween episode. Somebody asked me, if you remember, we mentioned it last week during the issues of the day, and somebody emailed me and asked, you're asking for our stories. Does that mean we have to make up a scary story and send it in? Not really. But you can if you want to. I mean, I've met a lot of you in person. I've met a lot of you over the years. And one thing I know for sure, all of you are really cool, but many of you are extremely creative also. And you have fantastic imaginations. So really what Shanclen and me are looking for the Halloween episode, any weird or unexplained things that have happened to you in real life, you're hearing voices, or you're watching a movie or reading the book and the door just closes and you know you're the only one. Things like that you really can't explain. Share those kind of stories. But if you don't have anything like that, or if you have and you've just ignored it, then it's okay. Make up a scary story. I mean, what do we do on Halloween? We tell ghost stories. They're not always true. They don't have to be true stories. Sometimes we just make up scary stories. You can do that. So if you don't have an experience and you want to just make up a scary story and share it, you can do that too. Same way. You know that actually gives me an idea. I just thought of it right now, but I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. I'm gonna tell you. Well, you'll hear what that idea is maybe on the Halloween episode. I know you're all going to enjoy it. I'm just not going to tell you what it is then. So, how do you send in your stories? Well, a couple of ways. One is you can record it on your phone and send it in as an MP3 or over email as an MP3. I think there's going to be a special section on the website. If it's not there, it might be by the end of this week, where it's a page that says ghost stories or record your ghost, something like that. You'll know what it is. When you click on that, it'll have a little button where you can click on it. Be ready though. Start recording, and you can record your story right there. If you don't want your voice to be heard, that's okay. That's fine. Send in the story as an email, geek.speak@gmx.com. Send it in as an email. Write it out, and either Shanclen or myself, or the two of us, we'll read it back on the Halloween episode. But either way, that's two ways you can send it in. Record it and send it in as an MP3, or send it in as an email, geek.speak@gmx.com, and one of us will read it back on the Halloween episode. So that's how you do. But it made me think about that when I got that message. Can we make up our own? Well, yeah. I was going to say no, but yeah, why not? Halloween's about fun, so let's have some fun. Some of you may have some real experiences. Some of you may not. So go ahead and make up a scary story if you want. And like I said, that gave me an idea, but I won't tell you what it is until Halloween night. So, for this episode, for today, on last week's issues of the day, I teased that you would hear from another writer introducing mythical stories from another culture in the form of a comic book. And we'll get to that right after Shanclen.
The Geek Speak Show, Volume 2 presents Nerdy Navajo News with Shanclen.
Oh, hey everybody, my name is Shanclen here with the Navajo Nerdy News. Yes, it is another week here with Shanclen and the Geek Speak Show, so I hope you all enjoying the show. Let's give you some updates here. First story we have up for you for today's Navajo Nerdy News is after getting us all hyped up with a kick-ass Red Band trailer, Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema have moved Mortal Kombat 2's release date from October 24, 2025 to May 15th, 2026. No! The trailer looks so good, I'm so excited, but now I gotta wait. I wonder what the reason is. The studios see a bigger box office potential in the summer slot instead of October. There are some heavy hitters coming in this October, so I guess it makes sense. We shall see. Next story I have up for you, The Goonies 2 is almost ready, according to the scriptwriter Pazzi Ponceroli. Now, he has already turned in the first draft, which was very well received, and now is about 95% finished with the second draft. So after many years of yeses and nos, a Goonies sequel is finally happening. I gotta say, hope it's really good, and I hope the soundtrack matches 100%. I'm excited for it. Anyways, next story we have up for you, now that Cobra Kai has ended. Johnny. The creative team behind the hit show are taking on another 80s icon, Knight Rider. John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Held are set to produce a movie adaptation of the hit 80s TV show. Now, there's no word, I'm looking around here, on whether or not David Hasselhoff will be involved. But if Cobra Kai is any indication, how could it not? The return of the Hasselhoff will begin soon. Yes, get your hairspray ready, because mine will be ready when David Hasselhoff returns. Now, on to the next story. Speaking of new adaptations, HBO Max's Harry Potter series kept the Back to Hogwarts tradition alive this past Monday by releasing a photo of Hogwarts Express and announcing that Hardwick Davis will once again be playing Professor Phileas Flitwick. The new series is well into production and will be released in 2027. Can't come fast enough, I'm really excited for that one too as well. A lot of good stuff coming up, everybody. I'm really excited for all this. Finally, now for the last story. Now that we're past Labor Day, that means 2025 summer blockbuster season is officially over. Including, but not limited to, Labor Day ticket sales, North American cinema-going revenue has come in at $3.6 billion. Let me say that again, $1 billion. Just behind $3.67 billion of last summer, and then way behind $4.9 billion of the last summer of 2023. The Hollywood Reporter is saying that this is being seen as a worst-case scenario for the industry, with one top studio executive telling THR that they are very, very, very nervous for the future, with the concern being over the lack of audience, rather than a lack of product. Asian markets in particular saw a large downturn in their taste for Hollywood. The downturn in box office totals go beyond Asia and is considered global, which is why Hollywood executives are starting to panic. Yeah, I would be too. You're losing billions of dollars here with revenue. That only means one thing. Gotta kick up your game, man. Gotta kick up your game, everybody. When I get there, hope y'all ready. Make some trillions of dollars with Shanclen Shuttle Productions. We'll see. I don't know. Anyways, my name is Shanclen with Navajo Nerdy News with the Geek Speak Show, and I hope you have a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Hook on it!
That was Nerdy Navajo News with Shanclen, exclusively on the Geek Speak Show, Volume 2.
Let me assume for a few seconds. Because the Halloween episode has always been the most downloaded episode in the show's history, I'm assuming you all enjoy getting scared. I'm assuming that's because you've had an experience that you just can't explain. Disembodied voices, shadows out of the corner of your vision, unexplained sounds when you're home alone. On this year's Halloween episode, Henry and Shanclen want to try something new. They want to hear your experiences and share them on the Halloween episode. You can record your experience and send it as an MP3 file to geek.speak at gmx.com. If you'd rather not record yourself, but you still want to share your story, write it out in an email and Henry or Shanclen will read it back on the Halloween episode. However you send it, make sure to put Halloween story in the subject line and send it to geek.speak at gmx.com. This will be an interesting and spooky Halloween episode.
Now back to the Geek Speak Show. Here's Henry San Miguel.
And I'm back. Let me introduce you all to RJ Palisoc. He's a writer and a producer who's worked on Marvel Animation, Legendary Pictures, and Sony Pictures Animation. He has a new comic book called Barkskin, and he joins me now to talk about it. Welcome, RJ. How you doing?
Thanks, Henry. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So how long have you thought about creating a comic? Because you weren't a comic book writer or artist before all this, were you?
Not officially, but I think like everybody, since I was a kid, I was creating comics. I was drawing, I was creating my own comics. And I think it didn't seem like a reality for me until I started taking writing seriously about a decade ago, where I wanted to be a TV writer. And that path brought me to a certain point where I said, okay, I've got a bunch of scripts, I've been pitching them, but I'm dependent on other people producing them for me. Why don't I produce something for myself? And by then I've had a pretty good career as a producer already. And so I just basically cracked open my old comics, did some reconnaissance basically, and then wrote my own comic book script and searched for an artist and created the comic.
Was it Barkskin or was it another one that you did first?
Oh, so that's funny because I did create a few before Barkskin, and then I was really exploring the Filipino mythology part of it just because I was introduced, like I've heard stories growing up, and I thought, oh, it'll be really cool to write a bunch of short film scripts about Filipino mythological monsters, and maybe I can shoot them as short films, which I still plan to. So my first few short comics were different. They were based on Manananggal, the kind of vampire-like, bat-like creature. But I really landed on the Kapre because I thought the Kapre was so interesting in that he's essentially a neutral monster. He's not evil, he's not good, and that just intrigued me, and it's funny because in the mythology he's basically like a really hairy guy that smokes cigars and hangs out at trees, but I imagine him more as more like Swamp Thing because he's related to nature basically. Yeah. And nature is neutral.
Yeah, and when you're researching the story, because I don't know how it is with the Filipino mythologies. For me, from Mexico, everybody knows La Llorona, but there's a lot more than that. I've always saying, when you really look into the stories, it's not really what you think. I always say the word authentic. The authentic stories, even them from Mexico, from Mexican people, they change it. There's different versions. They all have the same outline, but it's different versions. So for you, was it the same, or is it pretty much the same legend, I'll say, for the Kapre?
So I grew up with the story from my grandmother basically saying when she used to walk to school, she was guarded by a Kapre in the tree. And she believed that because, back in the days, they would walk 2 miles to school by themselves at 10 years old, and there'd be a lot of just lots of unsavory people out there, and she really believed that she was being guarded by the Kapre. And her version was more like a spirit guardian that would be hanging out of trees. So after I researched on my end and kind of just like you said, try to figure out what the root of this mythological creature was, It actually goes pretty far back to like when the Moors came down to the Philippines and they were dark skinned, and I think they used the term kafir, Kafir, which is I think a word that means dark skin.
Yeah.
Tell you the truth. And so that, as language evolves, it became Kapre eventually, and it was a dark skinned hairy person that smoked cigars and hung out at trees. But like I said, I think there's so many different versions of these creatures that we as creators now can kind of have a bit of liberty in creating a version that makes sense for us. And in like I said, in my case, if a creature is neutral, neither good nor evil, and it's connected to nature, which is also neutral, it would make sense that it would have those types of attributes, which is where Barkskin came from. A creature that has the skin of bark, that has hair made of twigs and foliage, and moss and a moss covered body.
Yeah. Before we get to the actual comic book, the legend is it similar to what Barkskin is about, or did you change it a little bit?
I would say I've taken a lot of liberties only because the legend isn't really consistent, and I'm not sure how like La Llorona was, but a lot of these legends are very different, and you may have heard this, but like for example, the term Diwata, which is now really a fairy, it used to mean god or goddess, but it was reduced to being, I guess weaker versions of a god or goddess, which is a fairy.
Yeah.
So the Kapre, the different versions of it. At least I saw that I could take the meat of it, the actual just the spirit of this creature, which is it's neutral, it's a giant, it's connected to nature, and then I can evolve it from that.
So, without giving everything away, what's the premise of your story of Barkskin?
Well, the premise of the entire story is it's about a boy who's looking for his real father, and he has the help of an 8-foot tall Kapre, and they are linked through an amulet given by his father, and so they can only communicate through the amulet, by the way. So there will be a point where the amulet gets lost, and they won't be able to communicate with each other, and hilarity will ensue.
Yeah, which I like already. To see that's a great way to put it, because that's something when Mark Nazal came on a few weeks ago and we talked about his comics. That's one thing we said is that, and I talk about that a lot here on the Geek Speak show. Like I've featured other, not just comic books, but movies, shows from other cultures that are coming here to the West, to America especially. And we always talk about how it is a little bit hard to, even though I'm sure you've heard this, even though everyone's asking for original stories, we want something different. Well, you present something different, but then they don't really get into it. Like, I don't get it. When the reality is, if you really think about it, that's why I was asking about the authenticity of the legend.
Yeah.
If you really look at like Llorona and all other cultures, mythologies, and legends, yes, they might be scary sometimes. Some might be kind of cool. But at the end of the day, when you read or listen to the legend, there's a life lesson in it. That's the main thing, and that's what makes it universal. That whatever the creature is, whatever the mythological monster is, at the end of the day, it teaches us a life lesson. So, Mark and I were talking. I'm sure you agree that however you present stories from other cultures, as long as you make it universal that way, it doesn't really matter that you are Filipino or Mexico or whatever culture it comes from. So I'm smiling when you were saying what Barkskin is about, because it reminded me a little bit of some Western stories that I used to read. I can't remember the name of one, but it was similar to that, where it was like a superhero thing, but it could only talk to each other through an amulet, and then they lose the amulet, and then like you said, stuff happens, and that's most of the adventure. So it's cool to hear that it's the same thing, but it's still different enough because it comes from another culture.
Yeah, that's right. We're human beings, and we're a storytelling culture. The hero's journey is tried and true.
Yeah.
And to get fixated on, like, for me, actually, let me back up a little bit. I'm Filipino American. You know, I was born in Philippines. I came here when I was when I was 3 or 4, and I grew up here. So I'm of both worlds, and to deny one or the other wouldn't be authentic to myself. So I took this character, I evolved it to what I feel would also kind of appeal to other people that like listening to stories like myself. And to your point about not being stuck with the old versions, I think we as a culture, as a human being culture, we want to hear these tried and true stories, just varied in different ways. And so with Barkskin, the original title of Barkskin was Kapre. And I was playing around with it a lot. And I talked to my friends, I talked to my family, and some people were very cool with it. But then what I realized is I might be cutting people out that don't understand what Kapre means, and then it would have to be explained. And then if you have to explain stuff to people before they can get into it, sometimes you lose a lot of that audience. Like if you ever look at metrics for TV shows, you'll see like the first 5 minutes of drop off, based on viewership. But so I decided, okay, I want to change the name. It's still a Kapre though, but what title would be catchy? What title would be succinct enough and kind of drive it home to the point? So I landed on Barkskin, worked on the title treatment, love my John Carpenter films, and just kind of the title treatments for all those types of movies. And so that's how I got with the logo, Barkskin.
Yeah. No, I was smiling when you said that because, I mean, another way to explain that is for if you're a stand-up comedian, if you have to explain the joke, then you're going to lose the audience. So it's kind of what you're saying with that. And yeah, I get that. Now I mentioned Mark a second ago. He was on with DeWater Comics and his all the stuff he does. He was on a few weeks ago. Did you approach them or they approach you, or how did you get involved with DeWater?
So it was actually very, very cool how it all happened. And I do believe in fate, to tell you the truth, because there are things that happen without your control. But basically, I've had this comic for years. It was actually complete. It was done. And I was like toying around for a year about on whether or not I'm going to self-publish or try to create my own brand or comic book. The thing is, I'm also a TV producer, and I'm very busy. So, and I also want to be everything. I want to be a good producer, a good writer, a good father, a good husband. And so I didn't have the time to do what that comic book really needed. And so by chance, I was having lunch with a friend and was passing by a coworker who was having lunch with Mark Nazal. And I saw that Mark was holding comic books. So I just decided to say hi. And then from there, we kind of traded info, and we had a meeting where he asked me to pitch me where he asked me to pitch my comic book to him, and I did. And then we just agreed that it could be under the DeWater banner, which was honestly a relief for me because I would have to do all of that myself, and he already had I guess an infrastructure for all of that. And the biggest thing for me was sitting there and talking with Mark and realizing we had so much in common as people. He's a third culture kid. I exist in two worlds as well. And just our he's a VFX supervisor. I'm a TV producer. So there were a lot of things that we had in common, and I felt that we had the same goal. If things didn't match up, I don't know if we would have worked together, but he just seemed to be the perfect supporter of my work and a great creative partner.
Yeah, I love hearing that story because I'm the same way, RJ. I don't believe in coincidences. I always my wife always also says that things happen for a reason. You meet people come into your lives, or you sometimes come into other people's lives for a reason. Whether it's for like you two to create something, or because somebody may be in a dark place or at their lowest, and they just need someone to remind them, like, hey, no, this is you're worth living. You're that. So whatever the reason is, I always think there's a reason why we all meet the people that we meet in our lives. And again, like you said, when you guys speak, quote unquote, the same language, you come from the same, the same, you guys work in the same industry, that language. And yeah, and when you got that vision, then yeah, it's perfect. Why wouldn't you want to work together? So when you got involved with Diwata, what do they do exactly? Did they just promote it or publish it, or what is their role exactly?
So it's funny because our first version of working together was like Image Comics. Like I would do everything myself, and then I would just give him the printed comics, and maybe we'd figure it out from there. But we had another meeting, and I said, look, I am so busy. I don't have the time to print, and I don't have the time to market. I don't have the time to do any of this. And so we worked out something where Diwata Comics is essentially the printer and the marketer, and able to really use their network, which I didn't have, to spread the word on Barkskin. And it worked out very well for me. Again, I love these guys. I trust them, Joe, Erica, and Mark, and they've done a lot for this brand that I honestly, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this myself, or it would have taken me 10 years, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've seen, and I'm assuming that was through them. You've done signings at comic book shops. You've been at conventions. So I'm assuming that was all from their end.
That's right. Sorry. To be specific, they exposed me to a network that again would have taken me years to put together. But they had a network with comic book shops, with podcasts, with just everybody in the comic book community. Comic-Con panels, all of that. So because of their network, because of their ability and belief in my project, because they wouldn't have done it if they didn't believe in my project. So because of all of that, Barkskin has a farther reach than I could have ever imagined.
What is something that, because you were familiar with comic books, obviously, but now you're part of that comic book creator world. What is something that you learned being a part of it, doing signings, being at conventions that you weren't even aware of before?
I mean, as an adult now, versus when I was younger. Oh, I honestly. So when I was growing up, comic books was a kind of a portal for me to escape, to just be excited about something, and then as a kid going to the Comic Cons back in the day when you could just literally sit there and talk to Todd McFarlane for an hour. It was really great to connect, and now that I'm on the other side, to be that person to talk to people who are inspired by your story or your art, basically, it's so fulfilling. This comic came out last year, and like I said, we did the signings, we did the panels, stuff like that. And I had been pretty busy this past year because I've been in a writing fellowship with the Writers Guild, and I've been working on TV scripts as well. But this year I went to Comic-Con, and I was wearing a T-shirt with a printed cover of my comic, and I was thinking, I would just want to walk around. I want to take a look at stuff, and people would stop me, and they would say, "Hey, where'd you get that T-shirt?" And I said, "Oh, I printed it out for myself because I created this comic." And they would go, "You created this comic? Oh, we just read it. We were just by the Diwata Comics booth, and et cetera, et cetera." And I was realizing that there were people that were being touched by the story of this little boy that that's going through struggles and that's getting help from this enigmatic creature. And that really drove it home for me. That solidified the reason why I write, why I do the things that I do, is because I'm affecting people positively. And I'll just give you another anecdote real quick. But on one of the panels, one person came to me and they said, they asked me how I got my inspiration for the comic, and I kind of went through my version of it at the time with them, and they got emotional, and that made me emotional. And so after the panel, we're there kind of like tearing up and hugging each other. But for me, that's what it's about. It's connecting with people on that really deep emotional level, and having a universal story that can do that. This isn't a story that's just specific to one thing or some type of trend or brand or whatever. It's a story of struggle and perseverance and hope, and that's what that's the feeling that I want to give to people in everything that I do, not just comics, and in TV scripts that I write as well.
The people that came up to you, were they Filipino American, or were they from another background?
This is the beautiful thing about it, is that person that got emotional with me was not Filipino. And although there is a core Filipino base, which is really cool also, I'm finding that there are a lot of other people of other ethnicities that are interested as well. And I don't know if it's the combination of, it could be the combination of the title, the look of the comic, the reach of Diwata Comics, because Diwata also is a Filipino American brand. It's not
right.
Strictly Filipino. So it could be all of those things. But I think for me, it was really great to just have a plethora of people, all from all different kinds of backgrounds, coming to me, approaching me, asking me to sign their comic, and talking to me about the inspiration for the comic.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because when you're right, it is the aesthetic. When you see the cover, when you walk by the Diwata Comics, the booths that they have, it's very colorful. There's all kind of things that are going to jump out at you. But when you start actually reading it, looking at it, and it touches you, that goes back to what I said earlier. It's just universal themes. That's what really brings us all together at the end of the day. And it just happens to be from another culture. That's what makes it cool too. And we all learn something from it. So is it going to be an ongoing series or limited series, or what's it going to be?
For now, we're going to start with limited, because of the reception, especially this last Comic-Con. I'd love to work on it full time, but what I have in mind right now is a 6-issue miniseries, and he's searching for his father throughout the whole series. He's encountering other Filipino mythological creatures that they have to fight or outsmart or befriend, and then by the end, he'll meet his father, and maybe his father is not all he's cracked up to be, or maybe his father needs help. We'll figure it out. But 6-issue miniseries so far. Depending on the reception, it might keep going. But the other thing is, being a creative person, I've got 50 other projects, 50 other ideas, and a lot of them could be translated into comics as well, so it really depends on bandwidth.
Yeah. Well, I have everything linked up on the show description for all of you that want to get it. You haven't gotten it yet. I have it all there. You can click on RJ's name and it'll take you right to it. But let me end with this. Last week we did what we call the Issues of the Day episode, which is basically where we talk about things that are happening in geek culture. One big thing, and I've been wanting to talk about it for a while, is superhero fatigue, where people supposedly are getting tired of superhero movies. And I guess that would somehow translate to comic books, because you would assume the reason they're going to these movies is because they read the comic books. So you, who is in the industry, as a creator, as a writer in the industry, from your point of view, do you see that? Do you think superhero fatigue is a thing, or no?
Absolutely, because if you're told the same story over and over, you do get tired of it. And the past decade and a half has been essentially, they're great, by the way, and I geeked out on all of them, but I think there's a certain point where you're going, okay, here's a hero, he's kind of an anti-hero, here's a villain, he's kind of a good guy too. So you have a lot of gray versus gray happening in a lot of different versions of superhero artwork, art, movies, TV, etc. And I think what people are yearning right now are absolute good versus absolute evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly haven't watched the new Superman yet, so I don't know what that's like. But just going back to Christopher Reeve Superman, where it was an absolute Boy Scout versus an absolute evil, the people felt satisfied. People, like, they would watch a movie and they would feel satisfied. And I think we did have to explore gray versus gray for sure. But I think we also yearned for that satisfaction of, wanting to be a good guy. We understand that everyone's got troubles. We understand that sometimes the bad guy is there for a reason, or the good guy has problems. But we also want to look up to people. We want to have heroes that are 100% good, that won't waver. One of my favorite heroes is Captain America, to be honest. And I've read Captain America growing up, but I fell in love with Captain America during the Civil War series at Marvel, in the Marvel graphic novels. Not the movies, the graphic novels from back in the day. And that was because there were all these rules that Captain America would usually follow, but he did what he thought was right regardless. And he didn't waver. He's the ultimate Boy Scout. It's why a lot of people love him. And I just think we need more of those types of stories. We can still have gray versus gray, but we would love. I think most people would love the satisfaction of having an ultimate hero versus an ultimate villain. Dark Knight was fantastic. I know that Batman isn't the ultimate hero, but to have an absolute villain in Heath Ledger's Joker was very satisfying for most people.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of people love it so much. And you're right. I've said this point also on another, not the one last week, but another Issues of the Day episode. The topic back then was, why aren't people showing up to Hollywood movies anymore? And I said pretty much what you said. I went back to, because I was 4 years old when the original Star Wars came out in theaters. I remember watching that, and I don't remember anything before. I always say I don't remember anything before Star Wars, even though I had gone to the movies. I remember going to Rocky and Jaws and all the ones that came out. But there was something about Star Wars that, to America, not because it was called, because it wasn't even called that. It wasn't called The New Hope till later, but it gave you hope. A lot of movies were disaster movies and the vigilante movies back then, the Dirty Harry movies and the Charles Bronson movies, and we had Planet of the Apes and all of that. It was all dystopian in its own way. It wasn't until Star Wars where, yes, it has wars in the name, but it was exciting. It was fun. It was this kid from a desert planet, which could have been any of us. He wasn't anybody important, at least not in the beginning. And he blew up this big Death Star, and everybody cheered, and everybody left the theater feeling like, yeah, I could be somebody. I was saying, that's, like you said, that's what Hollywood is missing today. They're not giving us hope. They just keep, we all know how bad it is out there in the world right now. We don't need reminders in our art of how bad it is. We know that. We're living through it. We need the opposite. Hope, reason to keep going. And it's Hollywood hasn't been doing that for a while. So, yeah, hopefully a lot of people behind the scenes see what you see, and we start getting these hopeful and inspiring movies soon.
I will say that the trend seems to be that way, that people want to tell good stories. And, it's the same thing with Barkskin. It's Filipino based. The mythology is there, but at the very just essence of it is a good story, whether or not whoever you are, really, it's a good story to read, and it'll connect with you on an emotional level.
Yeah, and again, I have it linked up on the show description. But again, let everybody know where they can follow you, websites, everything that you have.
Yeah, sure. I'm on Instagram at Barkskin Comics. I'm also on Instagram at RJ Palisoc. That's my writing Instagram. But you can buy my comic, Barkskin issue number 0, on diwatacomics.com/online store, I believe.
But I think so? Question mark. Like I said, I have it linked up on the show. All of you can just click on the link and it'll take you right there. Make it easy for you guys. So thanks a lot, RJ, for coming on. Really enjoyed the story. You're welcome back on the show anytime.
Thank you very much, Henry. I enjoyed it.
This is the Geek Speak Show Book Club. In here, you'll find books new and old, comic books, graphic novels, anything you can read which will interest you if you like this show. Welcome to the Geek Speak Show Book Club.
This week's selection is perfect for the upcoming cold months and especially for Halloween night. It's a graphic novel called Exorcism at 1600 Penn. Now, if you just thought, well, that's funny, you mean like 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? Yeah, that's exactly what the title is referencing. Although the exorcism isn't performed on who you're probably thinking it is. No, it's not performed on that person. Exorcism at 1600 Penn was written by Hannah Rose May, and it's illustrated by Vanessa Del Rey. Hannah Rose May made her debut with Rogues Gallery from Image Comics. Since then, she's written for DC Comics' Harley Quinn, Star Trek Lower Decks from IDW, and Exorcism at 1600 Penn. It's about a demonic entity that infiltrates the White House just as the first female president has just taken office. The entity affects not the president or her cabinet. Maybe it does. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but it is left very vague as to whether the president and her cabinet's actions are demonic influence or they're just bad people. But the demon definitely affects the president's kids, leading to the exorcism that's in the title. Now, this book came out last week, so it should still be available at your local comic book shop. If not, I have a link on the website and the book club page for you to get it. And again, perfect for the upcoming spooky season.
If you have a favorite book, comic book, or graphic novel that you'd like to be featured on the book club, let Henry know about it. If you're an author and you'd like your book, graphic novel, or comic book and you to be featured on the book club, definitely let Henry know. Henry at thegeekspeakshow.com. The book club will be back next week, exclusively on the Geek Speak Show Volume 2.
And it's a really interesting story. And terrifying, of course. I mean, I've never read it. I've never read or watched anything not terrifying with the word exorcism in the title. Now, speaking of terrifying, or maybe not terrifying, at least spooky, don't forget that we're now starting to gather all your stories to be included in this year's Halloween episode. It can be something that you yourself have experienced, but you never really told anybody about. This is your chance to tell them, to share it with the world. Or if you don't have an experience or you don't want to share an experience, just make up a short, scary story. I mean, it'll be Halloween, so what do we do on Halloween? Tell scary stories. So go ahead and tell that if you don't have or if you don't want to share a personal experience that you have had. Whatever you do, you can record it on your phone and send it to us. Send it to geek.speak@gmx.com. Practice before you send it. Practice telling your story. I know it's your story. I can tell it. Believe me, practice telling your story. Once you're ready, record it. And again, send it to geek.speak@gmx.com. Let us know if you prefer to be anonymous. Otherwise, we're going to say your name on the episode. Okay? All right. So I think looks over notes. Yeah, that's it for this week. Now, those of you that do enjoy NFL kickoff weekend, I hope your team wins. except if your team is the Lions, the Vikings, or especially the Bears. Everybody else, come back next week and Shanclen and me will definitely speak more geek.
While you wait, you can learn more about the show and the guests at thegeekspeakshow.com. Follow the show on social media at GeekC on Instagram, The Geek Speak Show on TikTok and Facebook, and Geek Speak videos on YouTube. If you want to be on the show or have any questions or comments, send an email to geek.speak@gmx.com. Henry and Shanclen will return next week with an all-new episode of The Geek Speak Show.
The Geek Speak Show was produced and distributed by 22 Creations Multimedia, LLC.